Hey everyone, this is Dima from Everclear Foundation, and today we are having John from Hyperlane. Hey John.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's incredible to have you here. So obviously, we're going to talk about partnership and integration between Hyperlane and Everclear, which is really exciting. We've been working together since I guess last year, and it's been like months
Yeah.
right now, and we haven't actually announced it. So yeah, today's the day, and yeah, let's drill into that. Maybe if you can start from just maybe a little status quo on Hyperlane, where you guys stand right now, what's going on, and then yeah, we can discuss the integration.
Of course. So, Hyperlane is an open framework for interoperability. It's this thing we wanted to basically let anyone connect any chain, do it on their terms, be able to do whatever they want with it, build something that is like very much in that crypto ethos. I got into crypto because of the idea of just permissionless ways to compute and to provide financial services, and that seemed really compelling from someone who's always hated the banks.
Yeah.
Really wanted to do something in line with those things, and so that's what Hyperlane does today. And today it's being used to connect well over 140 chains. Um, we work with different chain teams to bring assets to their chains, with different asset issuers that want their assets to proliferate between chains, with different applications that sometimes either need to move an asset or just need to communicate something between chains. And of course, we work with folks like yourselves that do very cool things that kind of involve really like all three of those aspects and don't stick to any given one of those.
Yeah. Well, that's really incredible. And I think one of the important goals for this conversation can be to just explain in very simple terms how we like Hyperlink, Everclear, and other protocols are actually approaching interoperability. Because I think you might remember this map, which was the chain
Yeah.
infection map by the rollup, right? And like I think just an average person still doesn't really get it, right? Like, what do you guys all
I'd say much more than an average person. I think like a lot of non-average, people in crypto uh don't even get it. That's obviously because
Yeah.
I'd say
Yeah.
there's like the understanding of us small subset of people who are like active in the category. Then there's like the general crypto person, and then there's like average crypto person, and like there's big deltas between how any of them understand this landscape.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious in your take, like, what's the difference between, let's say, messaging and intent, and how are they actually marrying together? So what would be your
Ooh,
take on that?
great question. So, insofar as there is a difference between those two things, to me, it starts with like uh, intent systems as they're used today. It's basically, I want to be able to do something, usually the movement of an asset from point A to point B. And sometimes it is even like a little, one extra level of complexity upon that, which
Yeah,
is I'm starting with asset A from point A, and now I want to end up with asset X on point B. Um, and how that, is done is like anybody's business. So, um, you kind of leave that as an open thing. A messaging system is I want to move something, whether it's information, an asset, or whatever,
yeah,
from point A to point B. And so, in that sense, they're quite different. That, like, where they're really similar is
hmm,
both of them want to do something that may be well generalized or might end up being very narrow.
yeah,
Um, where they're different is like, how is that actually happening? Um, and within the messaging system it's usually like more contained, right? Like the
hmm,
same message system will uh, get it from point A to point B, and with intent systems it's usually there is something in the middle,
yeah,
what is often known as like a solver, that in the example that we described effectively fills the order.
hmm,
And now I'd say basically until very recently those two things have been described as like clearly very, very separate.
yeah,
And then you ask, like, oh, well, how do these things get married together? Well, how they get married together is a messaging system may often afford the opportunity to transfer assets at a higher speed, either um, uh, that messaging system has minting rights for the
Hmm.
asset or through some other means. And now, if you're thinking about like what is often difficult about like being that person in the middle for intents, being that solver,
Yeah.
is well, you need to have inventory on all the places that you want to cover. And so how fast I can get access to those assets when I need to move them from place to place really, really matters. And so the ability to marry intents with messaging systems that now basically improve how well you can rebalance your inventory is proving exciting to a whole lot of people as they look at this. And um, I guess I'm not to offend, right? I'm speaking about this in like very general terms. Like
Yeah.
if you're listening to this today, like you should know Dima knows about this like 10 times better than even I do, because that's a lot of where Everclear comes in.
Yeah, what I do believe in, and I really like your explanation, there is like a very strong, like mutual benefit in partnering between messaging and intense protocol. And I think, again, the layman person might think, why we don't have just one protocol taking care of all this map, right? Why do we have such like specialization in every part of the stack? Well, the answer is because all of them are very, very hard problems to solve.
And a very different, yeah, very hard and very different problems.
Yeah, yeah, it's like pretty much impossible to like to take care of the rest, and we're very proud and happy that we have Hyperlane as a partner that are taking care of the messaging and like building the best possible messaging protocol, and we take care of the liquidity rebalancing and ten settlement, which is a different problem, right? Okay, cool. So, why do you think like what do you special like about Everclear? So, like, what would be your top one thing that you like the
Ooh, well, now that you made it hard when you said the top one.
Yeah.
If you just said, give me like four things, that would have been easier. Well, I guess, hmm. Well, top one, again, not to like kiss ass. It's it's very easy when this has been like one of my gripes with crypto. Where I've spent the last 8 years of my life,
Mhm.
is that there was a lot of this like reverence of like engineers and the designs and the code. But it's like, who are the people who are building this? Like, first, are they good at what they do? Are they
Yeah,
reliable? Like, can they deliver? And we're in an industry where we work with a lot of different teams, and there's not that many teams that you can like write home about and say, wow, I really like, they're dependable. I know that the things we talk about will happen. I know that I'll have a good time working with them. And that's probably one of my my top thing about ever is like knowing that these are serious people. They're lovely, they're reliable, they care about what they do, they love what they do. uh, Beyond like, I could go into why I think like, oh, Everclear might actually be a material driver of hyperlane activity, which is like, that's
yeah,
awesome. But like that would be a number two thing, because in our industry specifically, like knowing that the people on the other side are good, are reliable, like care about what they do, like are tenacious, that matters to me more than anything. And there's like a short list of teams that
yeah.
we'd say, wow, these people fit that description, and the Everclear team is one of them.
Appreciate you, John, saying that. It's been a pleasure and a run to work together, and maybe I can talk more why we kind of chose Hyperlane as the messaging partner. Well, I think like you guys are doing incredible job on actually hearing what your partners and users need, right? So I can recall numerous conversations where like, okay, guys, we really need to figure out Tron or Tone or whatever, right? And like, well, whatever you need, just tell us, and it will be like days or weeks until you will get access to this chain, which is like pretty incredible. And yeah, I don't know if people who listen to this right now saw our February update, but in February, Everclear has added 12 chains. We basically covered a range from Unichain to Taiko to Scroll and a bunch of like robust EVM chains. And all of that definitely was possible because of Hyperlink, because we're like are together. And right now we're working hard to get to Solana and SVMs. And you might have seen recent tweets from Hyperlink that they're covering all SVMs. So that will be the way forward. And yeah, that's definitely like pretty much incredible. And I do expect that probably by end of year, Hyperlink will be at hundreds of chains, and Everclear will be on probably the same number of chains,
Nice.
just doing intense. So yeah, we'll see. My next question to you, John, what would be your take on the interop this year, right? So what do you think will happen? Like again, let's picture December this year. what's the state of things in the space?
December, the thing, the state of things is that, in my view, and I've been saying this, I guess, for like 6 months now. So now it's a more common take. It's no longer like a hot take, but at the time it was.
Yeah.
I think that, like, today people still kind of entertain you if you talk about like, oh, the fragmentation, oh, ETH. By the end of this year, you'll be viewed as like you're just not you're not in the mix. You don't know what's going on. Like, you know, uh, yeah, maybe the user experience can be a little bit better, but like at that point the complaint will be, why are there so many interfaces? Where it's like, why are there so many shops selling shirts? Because a lot of people make different kinds of shirts. Is there like a fragmentation in the shirt market?
Yeah.
Right? Why are there so many internet service providers? I just want one. Like, no,
Hmm.
there's gonna be more than one. And so the complaints will basically about fragmentation to me will be reduced to, well, I don't like that there's more interfaces for me to choose from. And I'm like, fuck off. Like, there's gonna be more. Like, are you just saying you want to avoid the creation of like new enterprises? Like, that's just not gonna happen. Not in
Yeah.
this country. Um, but that would is what the complaint will be reduced to.
Mhm.
Because either like you see it being solved every day, right? Like, um, the tools are all there. They're getting adopted at increasing rates. And I think by the end of the
Mhm.
year, it'll just be like, oh, which interface do I like the best? Or I don't like that there's more than one interface. Like, well, fuck you. Too bad.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. And maybe to build on top, like we do have a little bit of fragmentation of, again, different interfaces and solutions. Um, Maybe the closest reference to what's happening right now with Interop is banking system like 50 years ago when, Bank of America launched the Bank of America card, which later became Visa, and then we got Swift.
Yep.
So the reason why we have just one Visa and one Swift is because of the shared ownership, right? So banks participants, they own that. We don't have such setup in Interop, right? We do have protocols that have like their own kind of interests and to protect. And this is why we are going to see competition. I do expect that like some consolidation will be happening at some point. But yeah, definitely interesting times to live in. So yeah, John, to maybe wrap up, anything exciting that you can share about hyperlink plans this year? So like yeah,
Yeah.
that people can be kind of pumped about.
Yeah. So I'd say by the end of this year, um, today, like you can use Hyperlane, you can do whatever you want with it. But like, okay, if you wanted to use it yourself to like say deploy between like SVM and like Cosmos, it's still kind of hard. So right now the tooling is the best within the EVM. It's second best like for SVM. I expect by the end of the year, like it'll basically be like near parity for pretty much any of the major VMs, and that should just make it easier, and easier for it to expand to like a bunch more places.
Mhm.
I expect that of the like applicable universe, Hyperlane will cover like 90+% of it by the end of the year, and that you'll just see more and more activity from it, and basically like making people's lives like the Everclears of the world just like increasingly easier. The only two things we care about are what are our users and what about their users, right? So like
Mhm.
Everclear is a Hyperlane user, then Everclear has its own users. Those are the only two things we care about. It's like, how do you give them the best time?
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible. And I've done some calculation recently. Like out of top 50 chains you guys are covering right now, 45, which is exactly
There
the.
you go. All right. 90% of the applicable universe. That's great.
Yeah, 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 that's incredible. Okay, well, it's amazing having you, John. Guys, thanks for listening. And yeah, have a great rest of your week.
It was an absolute
Bye.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.